I turned 23, I moved into the downstairs level of my mom's old house on the edge of Harrisville, Pennsylvania. It was meant to be temporary, just until I saved enough to move out of state. The idea was simple: more space, more privacy, and I could come and go without stepping on anyone's toes. The house was big for the area. Split level, white siding, with a narrow gravel driveway that curved awkwardly along a patch of woods. The upstairs was where my mom still stayed when she wasn't traveling for work. The downstairs was mine, converted into a makeshift apartment years ago when my uncle lived there. It had its own little kitchenette, a wide-open living space, one bedroom, a small bathroom, and a door that led into a laundry room we both still shared. There was also the door to the stairwell. It connected my floor to the main part of the house, technically a fire escape route, but more often just left unlocked out of convenience. When my mom was away, which was often, I used the whole place like it was mine. Fridge, TV, laundry, no restrictions. It felt like an adult version of childhood. That weekend was one of those stretches where my mom was out of town, some company retreat in Ohio. I had the whole place to myself. So I invited two of my friends, Jonah and Malik, over for drinks and hockey. The three of us had known each other since high school, and when we got together, the rest of the world just kind of faded away. We grabbed a couple 12-packs and settled on the L-shaped couch downstairs, music going louder than it should have, the game on full volume, and leftover takeout scattered across the coffee table. It felt good. Comfortable. Like the house had loosened its grip for a while. Around midnight, we were all pretty buzzed. Nothing reckless, just that perfect lazy intoxication where everything is funnier than it should be. Jonah passed out first, half-sliding off the couch. Malik crashed not long after, curled under one of the old quilts my mom kept stacked in the laundry closet. I stayed up a bit longer, sipping a last beer, scrolling through my phone. Then I turned the lights off, locked my bedroom door, just habit, and flopped into bed. Sometime later, I woke up with a jolt. The room was dark. Quiet. No sound except the hum of the fridge in the kitchenette. Then I heard it, footsteps. Not from my level. Upstairs. Soft, steady. Someone walking across the kitchen floor directly above me. Not rushing, not heavy, but definitely not creaking house sounds either. I listened, propped up on one elbow. My first thought was Malik, maybe he'd gone upstairs looking for water. I waited. No fridge opening. No bathroom door. Just steps. Then silence. I let my head fall back onto the pillow, half annoyed. Probably nothing. But just as I was drifting again, there was a sound that snapped me back into full awareness. The doorknob. Mine. My bedroom door. It twisted once, click, and stopped. The handle held for a second. Then let go. I didn't say a word. I didn't move. I just lay there, suddenly very aware of how dry my mouth was, how fast my heart was starting to beat. No knock. No voice. Just that one quiet attempt, and then nothing. When I woke up again, it was daylight. Muted gray filtered in through the slit of the basement window, and for a moment I didn't remember the doorknob. It was like the memory had slipped behind a fog. Only when I rolled over and saw the locked door still intact did it all come flooding back. The quiet turn. The pause. That eerie, thoughtful moment of hesitation. I pushed it out of my head. Jonah was already gone, his spot on the couch empty, blanket crumpled on the floor. Malik was still half asleep, curled like a cat. I asked if either of them had come to my room the night before, just to feel sane. Malik shook his head groggily. Nah, man. I don't even think I got up. Then he paused. Why? I didn't answer. Just shrugged and said I thought I heard something. He didn't push. I didn't offer more. We grabbed breakfast sandwiches from the corner deli, ate in the backyard with our hoodies on, and talked about nothing. By the time Malik left, the weirdness had already started to dissolve, like fog under sunlight. That evening, I stayed out late. Met up with some other friends across town, ended up at a bar playing pool until nearly 1 a.m. I wasn't drunk, not really. Just tired. Soft-headed. When I got back, the house looked the same. Still. Dark. I grabbed a snack from the upstairs fridge. Something about returning to that main level made me pause. Everything felt just slightly off. Like the furniture had been nudged half an inch from where it should be. Like the silence was waiting for me to notice. I shook it off. Went downstairs. Brushed my teeth. Crawled into bed. At first, I scrolled aimlessly on my phone, the blue light casting shadows across the ceiling. Then I shut it off, rolled to one side, and listened to the silence. It didn't stay silent for long. The first sound was faint. A thump. Maybe a cabinet door closing upstairs. Then a slow dragging noise. Like fabric moving over linoleum. I sat up, holding my breath. My ears strained in the dark. Another sound, softer, closer. A shuffling step. I stared at the bedroom door. The handle stayed still. But I felt it, that sense of being watched. Not directly. Not aggressively. Just the awareness of something else. I pulled the covers higher, as if that did anything. Minutes passed. Then, without warning, 3 gentle knocks on my door. Soft. Barely audible. But undeniably real. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked up. My throat went dry. I couldn't even reach for my phone. I just waited. Listened. Eyes locked on the doorknob. No voice. No more knocks. No retreating footsteps. Only a silence so dense it pressed on my chest. I stayed like that for maybe 10 minutes, until I finally moved, slow, cautious, like I didn't want to draw attention. I reached for my phone. Opened the camera. Snapped a photo of the door in the dark, as if proof could save me. Then I stared at the screen. And realized something chilling. The doorframe, on the edge of the photo, had a smudge. A faint, vertical smear, like something wet had touched it. I zoomed in. It looked like a fingerprint. Long. Thin. And slightly too high to belong to someone standing on my side. The next morning, I stood at the door for a long time before unlocking it. Sunlight poured into the main living space of the basement through the narrow windows, painting pale stripes across the floor. The photo was still on my phone. The smudge was still there in real life too, a faint streak just above the handle. Too subtle to notice in passing. Too exact to dismiss. I wiped it off with the sleeve of my hoodie and told myself it didn't matter. But the thought stuck like a splinter. I went through the motions of the day, laundry, groceries, catching up on work emails, but I kept circling back to the feeling from the night before. The kind of primal knowing that doesn't come from thought, but from something older. Something wired into bone. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to sound paranoid. But I started locking everything. The stairwell door. The side entrance. The little laundry room hatch that led under the deck. I even double-checked the windows before sunset. That night, I went to bed with the lamp on. The silence was thick again. That same too quiet kind of quiet. Like a stage waiting for the actor to enter. It didn't take long. At 3:14 a.m., I woke up gasping, like something had dropped me back into my body. There were footsteps above me. Not pacing. Creeping. One at a time. Like someone was trying not to be heard. Floorboards shifted, settled, paused. Then the sound stopped, directly above my bed. I didn't move. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. There was no doubt now, someone was up there. Not a dream. Not the house settling. Someone. My phone was already in my hand. I texted Malik. "Hey. Do you remember locking the back door?" No reply. Of course not. He was probably asleep. Everyone was. I debated calling 911 again, but what would I say? I heard footsteps. Instead, I got up. Bare feet on cold floor. I crept to the bedroom door, turned the lock silently, and pulled it open inch by inch. The apartment was dark. Still. But something felt disturbed. I walked into the living room. The side door was shut, bolted. Kitchen, untouched. I clicked on the hallway light toward the laundry room. That's when I saw it. The stairwell door, the one leading up to the main floor, was cracked open. Only a sliver, maybe an inch. But I'd locked it. I knew I had. I even remembered the click. I walked toward it slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last. When I reached the frame, I placed my palm against the door and pushed gently. It creaked inward, revealing the stairs. Dim light spilled down from the top. The air smelled different. Sweat. Dust. Something else, metallic. I climbed the first step. Then the second. Each creak echoed like a scream. At the top, I reached for the knob of the main floor door. It was unlocked. I turned it slowly. Opened it. The kitchen was empty. The hallway was dark. And at the far end of it, just for a second, I saw a figure step out of view into the master bedroom. I didn't call out. I don't know why, but the idea of speaking, of saying, "Who's there?" felt like crossing a line I couldn't come back from. Instead, I stood at the top of the stairs, listening. The house was breathing. That's the only way I can describe it. The walls felt like they were holding their breath. Like the silence was intentional. I took a step into the hallway. Carpeted. No sound underfoot. The door to my mom's room, the master bedroom, was open now. Not wide. Just enough to see the edge of the bed and the long mirror near the closet. I waited, letting my eyes adjust. Nothing moved. I stepped closer. I could hear the hum of the fridge in the kitchen, the soft crackle of the baseboard heater behind the wall. No footsteps. No rustling. No voice. But I knew I wasn't alone. I crept up to the doorway and leaned in just enough to glance around the edge. The room was empty. At least, at first glance. The bed was untouched. Closet door open. Nothing strange, until I looked lower. The underside of the bed was pitch black. Too dark. I took a cautious step inside, every hair on my arm standing upright. I crouched slowly, heart hammering, and tilted my head to get a look underneath. That's when I saw eyes. Two of them. Open wide, unblinking, set into a dirt-streaked face half covered by a hood. The man under the bed didn't flinch when our eyes met. Didn't move. He just stared, completely still, as if he'd been there for hours. As if he belonged there. I choked on my breath and stumbled back into the hallway, nearly tripping. I ran downstairs, slammed the stairwell door shut, and twisted the lock so hard it nearly snapped. My phone was in my hand before I even knew it. I called 911 again. This time I didn't whisper. This time I didn't care if he heard me. "There's someone in my house," I said. "I saw him. He's under the bed." The dispatcher kept me calm, told me to stay in a locked room. But I couldn't sit still. I stood in the center of the apartment with a crowbar from the laundry room clutched tight, waiting. Listening. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then, a knock at the window. I nearly screamed before realizing it was the police. They had arrived. I opened the side door. 2 officers entered, guns drawn. They moved fast, cleared the basement in seconds. Then we went upstairs together. "Show us where," one said. I led them back down the hall, pointed to the master bedroom. They didn't hesitate. One went left, the other flanked the opposite side. Seconds passed. Then one of them shouted, "Got him." I saw movement, shoes scuffing across carpet, the edge of the mattress lifting. They pulled him out bodily, dragging him across the floor. He didn't scream. He didn't fight. He just looked at me. His face was lean, dirty, beard uneven, nose bruised. And he was smiling, this slow, hateful grin, like he knew he'd taken something from me already. The officer asked, "You know this guy?" "No," I said. "Never seen him before." They took him out in cuffs. And the last thing he did before disappearing through the front door was wink at me. After the man was gone, the house didn't feel safer. It felt emptier, but not in a peaceful way. The officers stayed a little while, took my statement, walked through every room again, as if trying to find something they missed. They didn't. The man had nothing on him. No ID. No weapon. Just dirt under his nails and a piece of string tied around his finger. "Probably squatting," one of them said. "He could have snuck in days ago. Maybe longer." I nodded, but something about that explanation didn't sit right. He didn't look like he was hiding. He looked like he was waiting. I texted my mom the whole story. She called me at 6:30 the next morning, voice shaking, already halfway home. I told her I was okay, that the guy had been caught, that it was over. That was a lie. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat on the couch with all the lights on, TV muted, listening to the house breathe. Even when the sun came up, the shadows in the corners didn't feel empty. That week, I tried to go back to normal. Work. Gym. Dinners reheated from the freezer. But nothing felt right. My room downstairs, once a sanctuary, now pressed in around me like a closing fist. Sometimes I'd stop and stare at the ceiling, waiting for footsteps that never came. Other times, I thought I heard whispers behind the laundry room wall. Not voices, just intentional sounds. Shapes made out of breath. My mom stayed a few nights upstairs. Said she didn't want me in the house alone. But she didn't sleep well either. She'd get up in the middle of the night to check the locks, sometimes walking from window to window with a flashlight, as if searching for something just outside the frame. We didn't talk about it. But we both felt it. One night, I opened the closet in the laundry room to grab a towel and saw that the access panel was open. The one that led beneath the house. It was just a small wooden hatch that opened to the crawlspace, a dusty, cobwebbed void I'd always ignored. I bent down, slowly, holding the flashlight from the top shelf. The hatch door was resting crooked, one hinge nearly pulled free. There were scratches on the inside. Deep ones. Fresh. I didn't sleep downstairs that night. I took the couch upstairs. When my mom asked me why, I just said the heater downstairs was making noises again. She didn't press. But when I came home from work the next day, I noticed that she had wedged a chair under the doorknob to the stairwell. Not because she was scared of me, but because she was scared of what might come back up. A few nights later, I moved back into the basement. I told myself I had overreacted. That it had just been a vagrant, a one-time break-in. My mom wanted to believe it too. She stopped wedging the chair under the stairwell door. She even left a note on the fridge that read, "Glad you're sleeping in your room again. Proud of you." I smiled when I saw it. But I didn't feel safe. I just felt exposed. Still, that night was quiet. No knocks. No footsteps. No whispers. Just the slow groan of the old water pipes and the constant hum of the fridge. The calm lulled me into something close to peace. And then came the scraping. It started at 3:17 a.m. Not earlier. Not later. The sound came from inside the wall, the one shared with the laundry room. It wasn't a mouse, or pipes, or any of the comforting lies I'd been feeding myself. It was the unmistakable sound of fingernails across drywall. Slow. Deliberate. I sat up, breathing shallow. Then it stopped. And then a soft tap. 1, 2, 3. From inside the wall. I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. I just stared at the drywall like it was going to pulse or split open. Then I heard it. A whisper. Not words. Just breath. But full of shape. Full of intention. Like someone was standing an inch away from the wall on the other side, exhaling directly into it. I got out of bed, legs numb, and backed out into the hallway. The lights flickered. Once. Then again. And then stayed on. But something had changed. The air smelled different. Wet wood. Iron. That faint, unmistakable scent of earth that's been disturbed. Like something recently dug up. I walked toward the laundry room door. It was open. I was sure I had closed it. Inside, the crawlspace panel was shut again. But the chair I'd left leaning against the washer was now lying on its side, like someone had stepped over it. I took one more step into the room. And the light behind me turned off. I froze. My breathing was too loud in the dark. My ears strained for any sound. Then. Creak. Not behind me. Above. The sound of weight shifting on old floorboards. But my mom was out of town again. She had left that morning. I had watched her drive away. I wasn't alone. I backed into the hallway, heart hammering, and looked up at the ceiling. Silence. Then. 3 sharp knocks. Not on the wall. Not on the floor. On the ceiling above me. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat in the hallway with the lights on, back against the wall, eyes fixed on the ceiling above me. I didn't dare go upstairs. I didn't call anyone. I couldn't explain what I was feeling. It wasn't fear anymore. It was something colder. Heavier. Like whatever was in the house with me didn't want to hurt me. It wanted me to remember. By morning, the knocking had stopped. But the sense of being observed never did. I texted Malik. Then Jonah. Just some variation of, ever feel like someone's still here even after they're gone? No reply. I made coffee. Stared out the basement window at the overgrown backyard. I hadn't noticed it before, but a thin trail cut through the tall grass behind the house, leading toward the woods. It looked like something, or someone, had walked that same path over and over again. Something inside me broke. I went upstairs. The master bedroom looked the same. Bed made. Closet closed. Mirror standing silent. But when I looked at my reflection, I froze. Behind me, in the mirror, the door to the crawlspace was open again. But when I turned around, it was closed. I walked back downstairs. Straight into the laundry room. Stood in front of the panel. Heart racing. I dropped to my knees and opened it. Darkness breathed out. Damp. Cold. Smelling like rot and skin. I shone my flashlight in. Expected to see dirt, old wires, spiderwebs. Instead, I saw scratches. Deep. Crosshatched. Organized. Like something had been trying to write with its fingers. And at the very back, barely visible. A shoe. A child's shoe. I backed away. I couldn't remember ever seeing a child's shoe in this house. But something about it felt known. Familiar. Like a thread tied too tight to memory. I slammed the panel shut. Stumbled backward. And then I saw it. Above the washer, scratched into the painted drywall. You said you'd come back. I ran. Out of the house. Onto the driveway. I didn't stop until I was standing in the middle of the street, breath fogging in the morning air, eyes burning. The house was silent behind me. But I could feel it watching through every window. Like it was waiting. And for the first time, I started to wonder. What if that man they dragged out from under the bed wasn't a stranger? What if I knew him? I didn't go back into the house for 3 days. I stayed with Malik, barely spoke. Just existed. Ate what he gave me. Slept with the lights on. He didn't ask questions, just gave me space. But every once in a while, I'd catch him watching me like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. I thought about telling him everything. About the scratching. The crawl space. The shoe. About the writing. About the feeling that whatever I saw under that bed hadn't come in from the outside. It had come back. Instead, I just said, something's wrong with that house. And Malik nodded like he already knew. On the 4th day, I returned. Midday. Bright sunlight. Windows open. Doors unlocked. I walked through the basement slowly, expecting something to shift behind me, to flicker in the corners of my vision. But nothing did. It was just a house. Empty. Still. But I noticed something. The photo on the fridge had changed. It was the same shot, me and my mom, smiling on the back porch from 2 summers ago. But now, in the bottom corner of the frame, just barely visible, was a third hand resting on my shoulder. I stared at it for a long time. Not shocked. Not afraid. Just tired. I pulled it down, turned it over. Nothing on the back. That night, I slept in the upstairs guest room. Just once. And sometime past midnight, I woke up to the sound of my own bedroom door opening downstairs. Slow. Long hinges groaning. The sound I knew too well by now. Then the footsteps. Coming up the stairs. One at a time. No rush. No fear. I didn't move. I didn't hide. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling. Waiting. Because deep down, I understood something. It hadn't been about breaking in. It hadn't been about hiding. It was always about returning. It had always been its house. And I had just come back to where I said I would. Some places don't haunt you because of death. They haunt you because of a promise you forgot you made. And some doors don't need to open to let something through.